Hey everyone, today's video is about why young people are feeling so hopeless. Hey everyone, welcome to the YouTube channel for the Madness newsletter. As I said in the intro, this episode is about why young people are feeling kind of hopeless. That's just a feeling I've had for a while, and it's something I've been wanting to look into. It just seems like a lot of people aren't really sure what their future holds, and so they're not really sure how to act in the present. Um, there's this meme that has gone around for a while now that's just like, saying people aren't really planning for retirement or anything like that. They're just waiting to see when the apocalypse comes or, when a disaster just changes their reality instead of, trying to do long term planning like that. So I thought it'd be an interesting topic to explore and, something I could use my background to kind of investigate. It feels like the future went from something that was a promise, something that was optimistic, maybe in the late 20th century, to something that feels like a threat to be managed, right? Um, it's about money, it's about inequality, it's about climate anxiety. There's all these things, declining American empire, all these things people are like stressed about and they have their concerns about, and they don't really know what's coming, and so they don't know how to act right now. There's actually some data on this. 2025 Gallup survey found that the percentage of U.S. adults who anticipate high quality lives in 5 years declined to 59% in 2025. That's the lowest in 2 decades, and it's a drop of 9 points since 2020. In that same survey, it was found that 39% of Gen Z adults describe themselves as thriving and think they'll be thriving in the future. That's lower than other age groups. Next Gen Insights survey found just 45% of Gen Zers said they were thriving, and that's down over the previous 3 years. 36% of Gen Z respondents in a Navigator survey said they felt like they were in a democracy. They were more likely to describe it as authoritarian or fascist. And a Harvard survey from late last year found that Gen Z adults feel like they're just getting by or they're struggling and they're not optimistic about the future. An expert that was quoted in that survey said that young Americans right now have no clue what the future holds and are deeply concerned about that. They don't think the country is in a great place right now, and they also don't see any reason to believe it's going to be better anytime soon. I mean, the data seems to just suggest that hopelessness is the most honest response to the current picture of the American dream, right? Something else I've noticed is that there seems to be a lot of nostalgia amongst Gen Z folks. A lot of people seem to be looking back to the early to mid 2000s as this kind of like dream time that they wish they had lived in. And as someone who did live in that time, as a teenager in that time, there were some good things, but I do wonder where the nostalgia is coming from. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that like we're just so connected with our phones and social media and everything now that I think people are overwhelmed. The internet used to be something you visited on a bulky desktop in a room, and you were kind of anonymous on there, and you could be alone with your feelings. And now it just feels like you can't be weird or cringy or wrong without it being indexed in a permanent digital record, and everyone's aware of your thoughts and feelings, and you're aware of everyone else's thoughts and feelings. When it comes to our phones and our digital lives, I think back to this 1964 book, The Medium is the Message, by Marshall McLuhan. He argued that the most significant impact of any new technology isn't the information it carries, but the way it physically and psychologically reshapes the human environment. I think our phones have really done that. I just think we're constantly connected and we're constantly exposed to things or being exposed. There's like a sense of kind of global grief. Like you're thinking about all these traumatic things that are happening in war zones and injustices that are happening around the world, and it's just like kind of hard to separate yourself from that. It's a mirror that's constantly being held up to every tragedy on earth, and it's right there in your pocket. Something I've written about in the past is chronic stress. So I write about psychology quite a bit, and chronic stress is a prolong activation of the body's stress response system. Unlike acute stress, like when something stressful happens in the moment, it's when the cortisol levels in your body like go up and then just like never fully go down. This is the amygdala part of your brain, just kind of like constantly being activated. When it's activated a lot over a period of time, longer period of time, that's called an allostatic load, and it's just basically you're not constantly feeling high stress. You're just kind of like on medium or low alert. It just like doesn't really go away from you, and this can create learned helplessness. So basically, like you're just constantly connected, and maybe the economy's not working out for you, and there's inequality, and democracy seems to be falling apart. There's all this stuff that just like creates this stress, and you just don't know how to get out of it. It is metabolically expensive to live in a democracy that feels like it's constantly on the verge of collapse. And, beyond that, you're worried about, how you're going to pay your bills and what's going to happen with the climate and all this other stuff. So I think the antidote to these problems is to try to think a little more locally and try to develop community, instead of constantly being connected, instead of always being on social media. Just try to reduce your screen time, try to build community, connect with others, find purpose, and just interrogate your perspective. Like, am I, putting a lot of weight on my shoulders that isn't actually my weight, and just because I saw these videos online or something? Just like try to, you know, be part of something locally that can help in the greater world, instead of feeling like you're constantly in need of finding the solution to the world's biggest problems. Hope isn't found in those headlines. It's found in these small, tangible acts. So you just have to try to not carry the weight of the world and just try to walk through it. Um, so yeah, I think reducing screen time and putting things in perspective and just working on yourself and what you can do locally is a great way to deal with these issues. And yeah, I don't have all the answers, but I think that's a helpful message, maybe. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. If you like digging deeper into topics like this, please subscribe to the Madness newsletter. There's a link to that in the description. And I'll see you at the next video.